Hello, everyone. Welcome to our third episode of the Books and Beyond webinar series, which is a project supported by the PMO leader. I am Ilinca. I am your host for the day. For whomever doesn't know me, I am an active project management practitioner for a number of years and a big fan of technology. And joining us today, we have Paul Boudreau, an iconic name in the project management industry and in technology industry, with a vast experience and a researcher in artificial intelligence, speaker, professor, just to name a few, and also author of not one or two, but three books, which we are very much looking forward to hearing about in the next hour or so. Hi, Paul. Thank you for being here. It's such a delight to have you.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Definitely, it's our pleasure actually, and selfishly, I can say that I have, I guess, the best seats in the house alongside our live audience. So just a few notes before we get started for everybody who's on the call. It is live, but we do record it. So as soon as we wrap up the discussion, the recording will be made available to everybody. We will share it on LinkedIn and also on the PMO website. So not to worry if you miss it, you'll have it available there. And also we do have a Q&A session at the end. But while Paul and I discuss, please don't be shy in using the chat box, and not to worry, no questions will be missed. So feel free to exploit it as much as you can. And yeah, I think without further ado, Paul, are you ready to make some AI magic today?
Let's get going.
You can see the background, right? I'm supporting.
I like your background. What a great background.
Thank you. Thank you. I was inspired by the cover of one of your books. So yeah. Okay. So well, I guess it's self-explanatory, asking you why or what was the trigger in starting to write. All your books are focused on how artificial intelligence is relevant towards the project management space. But did you want to kind of walk us through how did you first interact with AI? What made it?
Sure. Well, let me talk about a bit about my background. I have a long history in the technology industry, a lot of project management experience in tech industry, also a little bit in the construction area, but not as much. And you know, I always wanted to be a writer and a teacher. That was my goal from, oh my gosh, when I was in school, graduating in school, that's what I wanted to do. But I got hired into the tech industry. And, you know, the pay is pretty good. So I kept thinking, well, you know, I want to go teach, or I want to go write. And I never got to it because, you know, the pay was good. I was busy doing things. There were changes. It was interesting. And then at some point, I guess it was about 12 years ago, I got a call from the college and they said, Paul, would you like to teach a project management course? So I started teaching an evening course in project management. And then, of course, I started teaching another course, and you know, now I got into one of the things I wanted to do. I'm teaching. So this is great. And then on the side, in my spare time, what spare time I had, I started looking into artificial intelligence technology, because you know this was a new technology coming along, and I'm interested in technology too, like you are, Ilinca. So I wanted to find out what it was all about. And as I started researching it, I discovered that no one was looking at this in terms of the impact it could have on project management. So that's what I did. I worked for a number of years looking at AI, taking courses in AI, reading books about AI. And then I thought, okay, how can I apply this to project management? And that was kind of the start for me writing the books. Is there was nothing out there, absolutely nothing at the time on applying AI to project management. So that was kind of the beginning of it. That was the initiation of these whole ideas.
Yeah, it's definitely a niche topic, but it's such a current topic, I find, You know, as an active practitioner myself, I see how technology is coming so close to us on a daily basis in whatever we do, and it sometimes obviously it has a huge impact towards a project's efficiency and success. And yeah, so it's great. I guess kudos to you for kind of discovering this gap and doing so much research in it.
Well, when I started doing my presentations, I used to do webinars and people would call me for PMI chapter presentations. And I'd always start with some drama, like, you know, project success rates are terrible. You know, what can we do to achieve 95% project success rate? We need new technology. So that's kind of where I started trying to encourage people to embrace this technology as opposed to just ignoring it.
I think most of us know, you know, our AI is artificial intelligence, and I think most of us have an idea about, you know, what it is. Do you have, I guess, for everybody, like for the simple mind, do you have an example to kind of show us AI in the works? Something.
Let me share a
that,
slide with you. Let me share a slide to talk about. This is the main content. I hope you can see this. This is the main content that all my books talk about. And there's really two basic capabilities that AI has that I think can be applied to project management. One of them is machine learning. And under machine learning, there's three concepts: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. And they're ways that a computer algorithm, a software algorithm, can use data and regression analysis to develop models that help make decisions. And then natural language processing on the other side is another capability. And the three capabilities there that I see really important for project management: document analysis, sentiment analysis, and the virtual assistant. And document analysis is having some automated software go through, and it's what I call truth in documentation, or honesty in documentation. In other words, you take a scope document and go through and make sure there's no errors in it, and make sure that it's something that's capable of being completed. Sentiment analysis, you know, how people are feeling about maybe the project kickoff meeting or whatever. And then the virtual assistant, just being able to talk, you know, to something like an Alexa or Siri on your phone and get your project status. All those capabilities are being used in project management now. Okay, so I don't want to surprise people or shock you, but they're all available now. Maybe you're not aware of it.
Well, I didn't know about the sentiment analysis. That's very interesting.
Oh, that's in Microsoft Teams. You have to get one of the modules for it, but it's available in Microsoft Teams. Everything you're saying now can be analyzed if you have that module. So my research is on the machine learning side, because part of my previous history as a tech employee, I did some software writing, and I'm not a great software coding person. I don't want to call myself mediocre, but I do know how to do it. So what I did is I looked at Python. Python's a very popular programming language for AI, and I actually started coding some of these tools into Python programming language. And so it gave me a good background into really how this can be applied to project management in a real sense. Okay, so that's what my books are from. Of course, since then, I've talked to a lot of people. I have a lot of friends and supporters in the industry. I talk to vendors. There are vendors who, for example, will take a user story and show you the gaps and the errors in the user story. I have friends who have an Alexa interface to the MS project or the scheduling application and can do that. And I have other friends, and I'm sure some of them are maybe on the call here from Europe, and they look at managing multiple resources, or managing resources across multiple projects, and looking at data analytics and how to optimize that kind of capability. So all this is available with AI, but we have to be careful, and we have to be careful around AI is not automation. And every call I'm on, we have skeptics. There are skeptics say, oh yeah, I don't want that, or I don't want, look, it causes so much problem. There's something called RPA, robotic process automation. And And what that does is that automates things. So if you've ever called a support or a service group, you call, they say, press 1 for English, press 2 to do this, that's automation. Okay, that's not AI. AI is the ability to understand the data through this regression analysis software, and then help you make decisions and make predictions. A good example of AI is on your phone. If you're typing in a word, and as you're typing, you're halfway through, and it predicts the word that you want. That's the kind of capability. So in project management, we want to be able to predict risks with much more accuracy. We want to be able to predict project success. We want to be able to predict resource issues. We want to be able to match task complexity to the technical skills of our resources. And all these capabilities can be done easily with software algorithms.
Wow, that's really interesting, and somewhat sci-fi, I would say. But yes, but you're teaching, right? You're teaching in not just in Canada, but also in France, in Paris.
My
And you've
teaching
also-
history, I've been so fortunate. I said I always wanted to be a teacher. And so I do teach project management in college here in Ottawa, Canada, where I am. And I've taught procurement. I'm teaching cost and finance right now. But I was also asked to teach in China. So a number of years ago, I went to Nanjing, and I was in Nanjing, China, and I taught economics, not project management, but taught economics for a while. And now, just recently, I returned from Paris, France. And the Schema School of Business in Paris, France is the first college or university to have a course developed on how to apply artificial intelligence to project management. So I taught that course. So I'm still teaching it. I've got a couple of lessons left to go. I taught it last fall, and I taught it again. I'm teaching it now again in the spring. There will be another course based on my content, based on the books. I have collaborated with a course that's going to be offered at the University of Wilmington in Delaware in the United States. That's going to be offered in the fall. So this whole education and learning about how to apply AI to project management is coming into reality in the world. So we're going to see more of it.
It's spreading, definitely. We probably all our practitioners are looking forward to something being maybe part of the PMI as well. The future concepts in project management. Who knows?
Don't get me started on PMI. I do have a PMI presentation from one of the chapters booked. It's very difficult with organizations and a lot of skeptics. There are organizations and project management organizations that are very entrenched in the status quo. So when you look at what they're doing, they don't necessarily sign up to new technology as a way to improve project success rates. Whereas, there are chapters of project management organizations and that really are interested in this. So I've got a lot of interest from chapters. I've done presentations at New York City PMI chapter, Chicago PMI chapter, and Europe. Actually, AI is more popular in Europe than it is in North America for some reason. I'm not sure why. And Australia, I have good friends and supporters in Australia. I presented to the PMI chapter in Sydney, Australia, a couple of years ago.
Okay, and going back to your, I guess to your teaching experience, do you see any difference? I mean, because you're teaching in so many different cultures, right? You have Europe, you have North America. Do you see a difference? Because you just mentioned that it's more popular in Europe. Do you see a difference, I guess, in your students', I guess, mindset or openness to the technology?
That's a great question. In terms of the student culture, they're all students. You have a lot of them who are absolutely fascinated by the technology, and they just want to absorb everything, and they hang on every word, and I'm shocked, right? But and then you have the other students who just want to get through the course. I do find that students in Europe are a bit more open to this technology.
Okay, because you teach AI here in Canada too, right?
In my presentations and workshops, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we have to be more curious about that. Then.
Embrace the technology. It's not going to destroy the world. It's going to help us be more successful.
Less resistant to change, I guess.
People are worried about change, and the first thing people ask me is, okay, what happens to project managers? We implement all this technology. Is the skill or the role of a project manager going to disappear? And actually, I've argued both sides of it. So the answer is we'll see. And I did a webinar that's on a web link somewhere where I emphatically discussed how the role of the project manager might change, but we will always need project managers. There's 16.4 million project managers in the world, and it's projected to increase over the next number of years. On the other hand, my last book that I wrote, The Self-Driving Project, which I have right here, The Self-Driving Project. In this book, I argue that that AI software can replace the project manager and do every function that a project manager can perform and do it better. So that the project manager's role becomes more of a data manager and maybe overseeing like a PMO level, getting the business value out of using this technology. Okay.
So basically we would be using AI and AI would be using us as project managers. we would be in a very nice collaboration.
Technology is not like turning a switch, especially with AI. It's not like you flip a switch and all of a sudden it's there. AI is a bit different because it's based on statistics and math and regression analysis. There's a lot of interpretation. There's a lot of manipulation of data. And who's better to do that than people who are working in the project, project managers, either in a PMO or working in projects. It's a gradual process of bringing this technology into project management to make projects more successful.
Right. Okay. And how about you mentioned China, which I find extremely interesting, an interesting experience. I myself have been there for a few weeks in a learning capacity. Did you taught economics, but was AI part of any of?
I did not teach AI. I was there. While I was there, it was I was still doing research. I have tried to connect with some of the researchers there, but they're not as far ahead as, for example, Europe is, and they're not as far ahead as they are in North America, from what I could see. So North America is the AI leader, just not connecting AI to project management. Like Google, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, they're leaders in AI technology, but they haven't applied it to the project management field of study yet.
Okay. Well, who knows what is going to come in the next few years. But okay. And going back to your books, how was your writing experience done by yourself, or did you have any support? Maybe your students, were they involved in any of the research for the books?
Yeah, so you do have support when you're writing. My biggest resource was my laptop, and I could write anywhere. The writing experience, it wasn't so much about a location; it's about time. Because this was a technical subject, it's not like I could sit down and write something in 5 minutes and then get distracted and go away. I needed to have a time period like an hour. And then I could sit down and really get into the content, start writing it. As I'm writing it, go back to some software algorithms and run them and see how they worked, and then go back and apply it in my writing, that kind of thing. And I did have great supporters. My colleagues at the college helped me with the direction. And also I have former students. I have a number of former students who were just amazing, reading some of my initial drafts and giving me feedback on the draft copies. And one of my colleagues, I mean, if anybody who's interested in writing, you need to have that feedback. You can have the content in you to get out, but once you've got something that you're starting to put down in writing, you need that feedback. One of my colleagues read one of my first couple of chapters, and she sent me an email saying, "Paul, who is this for, and what value are they getting out of it?" And I went, oh, gee, okay. And I kind of had to, change the direction a little bit on what I was doing. So.
Okay. Well, that definitely feedback is great. External feedback, right? Perfect. Okay. How about your writing space? You said the location was not
Look,
necessarily important, your laptop and just timing. Do
my
you have any?
laptop and having an open amount of time, I could, whatever I was waiting, if I was waiting for someone, my parents are elderly, so I was driving them to medical appointments. And if I had to sit in a doctor's office for 45 minutes before the pandemic, I would sit there with my laptop. And as long as, there were no distractions there, I would just sit there and write something out. I was very fortunate with my first book because I had written blogs. And again, anyone who's thinking of writing, I encourage you to start off with posting blogs on LinkedIn or any of those websites. And so I had about 6,000 or 8,000 words about AI and project management already written in my blogs. So the first book, I believe, is between 50 and 60,000 words. And I already had about 8,000. So it was a great start. It was just a matter of trying to get organized and taking it further.
That's very resourceful in the doctor's office. I wouldn't have thought.
Anywhere you're waiting, anywhere they sit down and make you wait.
Yeah.
Bring your laptop. Bring your laptop.
There's quite a few things, a few places.
And the good thing is you don't need Wi-Fi. You just need a Word document to write in.
Yeah. Well, especially if you have already all the information that you need, and it's just a matter of you and and the laptop, definitely. Okay. How about any future? So you have already 3 books. Any future projects?
Yeah, well, I do have another book that I want to get. So the 3 books that I had came out of me. Like the first book, it just I couldn't stop writing. I had an idea, I'd put it in my phone, and then when I had my laptop out, I'd write some content. And then the second book, actually, which is the PMO book, how the PMO can use AI to improve the bottom line. That one came out of one of the chapters I wrote in the first book. So that was kind of easy to move on, and for different audiences too. The AI and project management is for project managers. PMO book is for a bit senior project managers, executives, and it talks more about business value and business cases, but that's okay. And I have a couple of ideas for books that I've started a couple of times, and I can't set the direction. It's either going to be how a project manager can become an AI-based project manager without the tools. In other words, something like building a knowledge repository, building the data, and acting like an AI algorithm would. So how you could go through that without all that technical capability. In other words, being a project manager who kind of facilitates acting as the way AI would. And then when the technology is purchased or procured by your organization, you would have all that capability there. You'd have the data ready to go. The other thing that I do with my students, one of the exercises I give with my students on document analysis, is I give them a scope document. I don't know how many pages it is, probably 10 or 20 pages. And they do a find on it. Find this, find training, find this, find a number of words. And so what happens is they go through just looking for different words, for example, milestones. And then they look, and maybe one of the milestones doesn't have a date attached to it. Like, oh, there's a mistake in this scope document. So there are things that we can do, without the technology that AI, can help guide us into this habit of being a better project manager. So I want to write something around that. And on the other side is the technical aspect of it. I'm also involved in genetic algorithms, something called recurrent neural networks, and how we can use those things to improve project success rates and improve project schedules and budgets. But that's more of a technical book. And the problem I have with that is who buys the technical book? I don't know. So I'm kind of caught between a very simplistic book for project managers that would be very useful for them, and taking my most recent research and pushing that out to the world and saying, here's the most recent research I've got on this, and hopefully someone can take that and adapt that. Usually it's the vendors, people who are involved in selling the software, that look at that kind of research, and the concepts might trigger some ideas or some creativity in how they can apply it against the database.
one to another, right? You can, if you train our mindset, then we might be even more inclined to going into the to deep dive into the technical book, because you're already more familiar with the concept. I think that's great.
Yeah. So probably post a few more blogs. Look for blogs on LinkedIn if you're connected with me on LinkedIn. And I'd love to get another book out. Probably not this year though, maybe next year.
How long did it take you to write your 3 books?
Oh, that's a good question. So the first book was a year. A lot of organization around it. So there's 2 parts to it. There's this creativity where I get these thoughts and I write them all down. And then there's the organization part. And that's something that I kind of struggle. That's the part I don't like. How many chapters is it going to be? Where do the chapters go? And taking your content and allocating it to a chapter and organizing the paragraphs and doing all that part. So the first book took a year. Second book took 6 months. And the last book on AI, I think took about 8 or 9 months.
Okay, well, that's not really too much as far as
that's not too much at all. I mean, if you're taking 2 years to write a book, and I know someone who took 5 years to write a book, part of the problem if you're writing in a technical field is 5 years away, things kind of change on you. So you got to be careful. Yeah. Plus, you want to get your thoughts out, right? You want to get your thoughts out and get it down. Let people share your work, whether it's research or ideas or concepts or whatever it is, let the world look at it. Let the world see it.
Do you have any tools that we can use, or do you know of any tools of AI tools that we can use?
Well, I have my predictor tool. I have my predictor tool that I created. And it's a supervised learning, machine learning algorithm. Sorry. It's a machine learning algorithm that I created. It's a neural network, 3-layer neural network. So it's deep learning. I do this I show it to people in my presentations and do demos with organizations and clients. It's available for people. What you do is you put in data, for example, 87 factors or characteristics of a project, and then you train the algorithm to recognize what project success looks like. And then you put in some characteristics of a project that hasn't started yet, and you run it against the algorithm, and it will give you a prediction: 95% project success, 40% project success. That tool is available if you want. I use it for education and training purposes. It doesn't have a very pretty front end to it. I have some error checking in it, but not a lot of it. I'm not in the space of being a software vendor. But if anybody wants to use that tool, they just have to send me an email. Connect with me on LinkedIn, or Ilinca will show you my email towards the end of this session. And you just connect with me, and I'll have somebody send you an authentication code and some training materials on how to use it. Again, just to bring up your level of knowledge about this technology and what it's capable of doing.
Do you know of any other tools that are available out there that we can approach?
Oh, vendors. Well, I know all the vendors. I work with them all. So I don't know if you want me to mention names, but there's like Scope Master in the UK, my friend Colin. There is something called QV Scribe. It's actually in Canada. Document analysis tools for managing resources across multiple projects. There's Epic Flow. My friends Albert and Jan Willem do amazing work on that stuff, and their software has been doing very well, and the clients are very happy with that. Australia has Octant AI, which is they work with the Sydney Australian government on large projects. There's tools in what's in France. Lily.ai does some natural language processing. A lot of tools in the UK. Nplan for construction projects and managing risk. What's the other one? Horizon PPM is another application. It's more like a scheduling tool, but it has an Alexa interface, and you can look at risks. And again, good friends, Edward here in Canada, a company called Mely.ai, M-E-L-Y, strange name, .ai. But what they do is they help you build a knowledge repository. And so this is about a knowledge repository where you don't want to make the same mistake on succeeding projects. So you build this knowledge repository, and they've built interfaces to tools like MS Project and Jira and all sorts of other tools. And what they do is they allow you over time to build a knowledge repository and a project management from your project management data. So imagine them starting a couple of years ago with their clients. And after 5 years, these people have this project management data repository that is structured and organized. And they're going to be so far ahead of any other organization who's trying to use AI in their organization. It's going to be amazing.
What do you foresee AI? Where do you see AI going to in the next, I guess, I don't know, few years? I'm not even sure if to say 5 years or less, because it's so dynamic, I guess.
Yeah, it is very dynamic. In project management, so what it is right now is we're very kind of fractured. And there's a lot of tools for specific purposes. And even I didn't mention any North American tools because they don't really have them. The tools in North America are things like TensorFlow from Google and Power BI from Microsoft. And those tools are tools that you need to get your project management data into a database somehow. And then these are data analytics tools. You can do data mining or predictive analytics by using these tools. So it's not really project centric, but you can use these tools to do some analysis and maybe get some insights out of your project data. But I think in the future, what's going to happen is we'll see a bit more of a move towards a single larger tool for AI, or like an umbrella tool that can handle all the aspects of AI, procurement, resources, scheduling, budgeting. We do have a lot of great AI vendors, and I think AI is going to become pervasive in project management. The problem is if you have two organizations, and one organization is starting to use AI, and as I said, it's a gradual learning process to get good at it, and you have another organization who's not using AI, then what's going to happen is the organization that's using AI is going to become far more competitive because they're more efficient. And the organizations that is not using technology is going to fall by the wayside. So we're going to see this dichotomy in project management and project organizations, where projects who embrace the technology and learn and understand how to use it successfully are going to be so far advanced compared to their competitors.
Okay.
I think that's what's going to happen in the future. We're going to see people fall by the wayside because they don't adopt the technology.
Would it be just a matter of not having the capability, or just not, I guess, resistance to change, as we were talking about?
Resistance to change. The biggest thing for me, I could write a whole book on resistance to change for AI technology.
It's not an expensive feature to implement, you would think, at an organization level. Would it be a
for
cost?
AI? So some of these tools most of them are cloud-based, and so it's pay per use. Like you're not buying.
So that would be an excuse.
Yeah, I just like even Microsoft Project now, I believe Microsoft Project has a cloud version now that you pay by project or by active user or something. Most of the IT tools now are cloud-based, and you just pay per usage or pay by active user or licensed by user. So no, they're not expensive at all. It's not like in the old days when you used to buy like an ERP tool and pay hundreds of thousands of dollars and then implement everything. It doesn't work that way anymore. It's just, you have 5 users, so you pay 5 licenses. You got 1 user, pay 1 license.
How do you feel in your presentations? I'm assuming that you've had maybe different executives attend your presentations. How did you feel, I guess, organization leadership is seeing AI from?
Oh, that's a good question. So you know what? Here's my experience, and I've had some clients out of Europe, one in particular in Germany. So the CEO of the organization typically says, we have to use AI. We have to figure out a way to use AI technology in our organization, or we're not going to be successful on an ongoing basis. And then we have the CIO, Chief Information Officer, or maybe Director of Project Offices, the Director of PMO. And that person I've talked to a few of those people and I've said, do you need me to help you build a business case to show the value to the executives? No, the executives are on board. I just need to figure out a way to do it. Okay. The resistance is coming underneath there at the project manager level, at the middle manager level, below the executives. That's where the resistance is. People are bought into the status quo. They're bought into their salary. In a lot of cases, people are firefighting. They just have so many crisis situations in project management that they don't have time to look at this. And, and it's very ironic because that's exactly what AI can help you with. AI is about minimizing variances, predicting and minimizing all of these things. You know, we want to predict, prevent, and resolve. In my last book, that's the process I say we should be using. Okay. Prevent variances from happening, prevent risks from happening, predict what's going to happen in the project, and take action, take proactive action to resolve it before it becomes a serious issue. And then if you can't resolve it using data and AI intelligence and data analytics to resolve it successfully. But, you know, here's the problem. And I feel bad for project managers for a number of reasons. The first reason I feel bad for project managers is because when a project fails, who gets blamed? Ilinca, the project manager gets blamed.
Yes.
It's not the project manager's fault. We don't have the tools. We don't have the tools to be successful. And part of that is with AI. So that's part of it. Project managers get blamed. And the other part, oh, I've lost my train of thought now. The other part, you know, with project managers, preventing, predicting. So here's what happens. You see a project manager and they're out there. They're fighting fires. They're resolving issues. There's always a crisis in the project. And guess what? That project manager is looked at, oh my goodness, look how good that project manager is. They're always working. They're so active. They're always trying to fix things. Boy, oh boy, that's such a great project manager. Then you have another project manager. They're proactive. So there are minimal crises in the project. You know, he or she got an easy project. They're not doing anything. So which project manager gets the raise, gets the promotion? The one who's done all the groundwork and is proactive to prevent issues, or the one that's always in your face working and resolving things? That's and it's not fair. It's not fair. Again, I feel bad for project managers because, you know, unless there's a huge crisis for you to resolve, you don't get the visibility. So that's part of this resistance to change, and we have to change that in project management.
No, and it's a pity. You're right. I see this a lot in the industry that I'm working in. It's a pity that we tend to get so busy in our day-to-day struggles that we don't see the long-term benefit of using something like AI. That would definitely improve efficiency across the board. But
Poor
I guess
project managers.
this is
Poor
for our
project.
CEOs.
I'm a project manager too. I feel bad for all of you.
CEOs should do a better job, I guess, in sharing their thoughts with the rest of the organization, especially in the big companies. But yeah. Okay, well, I guess we're steadily coming to an end. We do have a few questions in the chat box, and I do want to have to allow time for that. But
Okay.
as a last question, I guess, from my end for the audience, going back to writing, what would be your best advice, I guess, for somebody who is just starting to do this? So for a new writer.
Great. Yeah. So I'll tell you a story, right? I got lots of stories. I went to a workshop once on how to be a good presenter. And many years ago, because I wanted to get into public speaking and I wanted to teach, as I had mentioned. And what this person said is, he said, if you want to be a good speaker, you have to have a field. You have to have knowledge. You have to be very knowledgeable of what you're talking about. And the way to do that is, they said, well, what do you play games on your computer, or do you watch television? Just take 20 minutes, maybe half an hour a day away from something that's not really adding value, and read a book on the subject that you're interested in, or watch a YouTube video, or take a course. And his advice was read one book a week. And then after a year, how much more knowledge are you going to have in that topic? After 2 years, think about how much more knowledge you're going to have in that topic. And then once you've done that, and that's the philosophy that I adopted. When I started looking at AI, I read every single book on AI that I could get a hold of. As I said, I'm also fortunate because I did some programming in software. So unlike, and I have to be careful here, some speakers on AI and project management don't really have a background in it. So they speak at a high level, a very high level. AI is going to do this and AI is going to do this. I've read over 50 books on AI. I have a huge background in project management. So that's where I gained my knowledge from. And once you have that knowledge, once you have those 50 books or YouTube videos or courses from Udemy or whatever, Coursera, wherever you take them, then I think when you put together your concepts, then you can put together and synthesize that and come out with something that people will be really interested in. So be knowledgeable about what you're writing about, and then just listen, sit down and write. Sit down and get started. There's nothing like getting started. For me, it was very spontaneous, stream of consciousness kind of thing. I would sit down and just start writing out all my ideas. And then I would kind of organize. And as I said, I have more struggle with the organization. So stream of consciousness first, get your ideas out based on your knowledge and background. And then you can start doing organization, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, because chapter 1 has to be sort of an introduction to it. The last chapter will be kind of a summation. And then what is your content going to be in the middle? Try and make it exciting. And the other thing I like to do is every chapter has to have, for me, a new idea or a new concept. So I want to surprise people in every chapter with something that they hadn't thought of before.
Okay, that's a great
sense.
advice.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well,
thank you. And if you're interested in writing, don't stop. Just go for it. Just go for it. Write a blog. Get started writing blogs, and get started writing your book. Don't just
go outside of the comfort zone and do it.
Just do it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's great. Thank you, Paul. Okay, so let me read you some of the questions that we have here.
Sure.
Can you share the step-by-step guide on how to start using AI in program management?
Good question. First of all, I would say, what project data do you have? Step one, what project data do you have? Do you have it stored? Where is it? What does it look like? Because I can almost guarantee you don't have enough data and you don't have the right data. And I say that from experience working with a couple of clients. I worked with a pharmaceutical organization. I worked with a couple of PMOs and construction organizations, and they would send me the data and I'd analyze the data, say, okay, well, you need this, you need this, you need this. Second thing is, what is it you're trying to fix? Step two, what is it you're trying to fix in your organization in terms of project management? Are you worried about risks? Are you always having a problem with resources? What is it? Because you want to write a business case. There has to be value to using a technology, okay? This is a business. And so where are you going to find that value? And I help people create business cases on that. So once you have your data and once you understand your value, then you can start looking at more simple tools. For example, I had someone send me their data, and I said, look, based on the data, the number of data fields that you have, do a Pareto chart, 80-20 Pareto chart, or do some simple data analytics. And she went out and bought MathWorks. And that's a great solution for her. Don't try and put AI in first, okay? Get the data, get the business case, do some data analytics and predictive analytics, and then look at putting in AI. Although having said that, if you're an agile organization doing user stories, then you should be using a natural language processing tool right now. There's no reason, because I can tell you right now, you're going to get, I think the value last time I talked to the vendor was what, 10 to 1. For every dollar you spend, you're going to get $10 back in value on making sure that your user story is accurate.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Another question is if AI usage change based on methodology or framework we use. So for example, Agile, Waterfall, Kanban, etc.
Well, how do I answer that? So does AI change? It can be applied in different ways. Okay. I'm just making some notes here before I forget. So first of all, AI is like, I tell my students, AI is like a screwdriver. Do you know a screwdriver? You know, a flathead screwdriver, you can fasten something with a screwdriver. But then how many people have opened a can of paint with a screwdriver? You know, you just pry the lid open. And that's what AI is. It's a tool that has many, many uses, like a Swiss Army knife. And it's up to your creative ability to figure out how to apply it. Okay. Now, one of my friends that I've been working with, Antonio Neto Rodriguez, I don't know if you're familiar with him, one of the great project manager gurus in the world today. His latest book by the Harvard Business Review, he says that these frameworks are useless, right? Forget that. And he's built a project canvas, and his project canvas is about delivering a project no matter what framework you may have. And actually, I'm working with him to implement AI in his framework. So the problem we have is we've got these words like waterfall and agile, and agile doesn't work any better than waterfall. Agile success rate is around 30% from the metrics I've seen. And we build these models and say, this is how to do it, you know? Here's how to make this project work. And the models don't work because as soon as they're developed, they're out of date. You need data to derive the model. And that's what AI does, is it does build a model, but it's like a flexible model. It's like a customizable model. It's, I don't know if the correct word is amorphous. It shifts and changes. And it shifts and changes based on the project data that you feed it. So here's what's happening. According to Antonio, 60% of the organizations in the world today are using a hybrid model. They take some agile and some waterfall. Now, the question I have is, how do you know which pieces to take? And the answer is, they have no idea. They have no idea. So what you need to do is use machine learning tools. Use AI, and AI can actually tell you which pieces of agile and which pieces of waterfall are most appropriate for your project type, for your organization, for the project that you're doing. And it's going to be different for every organization and every project type, possibly different for different organization types, whether it's construction project or technology project. But the same AI tool can help you build the customizable framework that's going to work for you. All right. I hope that helps. It's a flexible tool.
So it doesn't matter if we're in Agile, Waterfall, Kanban, or anything else that we like to name.
No, those are just silly words. I'm sorry. That's my opinion.
Okay. Paul, I think the audience is, I'm not sure if you can see the chat box, but they're very satisfied with your feedback.
If anybody has any questions, by the way, feel free. If you're connected with me on LinkedIn, be happy to answer them. You know, just send me a message on LinkedIn, or when Ilinca posts my email address, happy to answer emails from any questions you may have about a project or your organization or whatever. I haven't looked at the chat. Should I look at this?
Definitely, for sure.
Take a quick peek here.
We've had a few conversations there.
Oh, good, nice, okay.
We've shared some of the links, and
thank you.
I will share a slide at the end with your contact details. Before we get to that, so we have about 10 more minutes or so. We do have our regular typical game to end all these webinars. It's a rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have anything else that you want us to go through before I rapid fire question you?
Go ahead.
No. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So let's start with what is the capital of Canada?
Ottawa. It's where I live right now.
Perfect. Who's your favorite superhero?
Zorro. I don't know if people remember Zorro, the
I love Zorro.
swashbuckling Zorro. And why Zorro? Zorro didn't have any superpowers. Zorro had skills and ability, and built up his knowledge and his skills.
And a good Latino accent. Okay. What was your favorite book when you were a child?
You know what? That's a tough question. I used to read adventure, mystery, and detective books. So I don't really have one specific one, but you know, maybe like a Robinson Crusoe, or, you know, some of those old books that were adventure books and mystery books, things like that.
Okay, sounds good. Your favorite hobby?
My favorite hobby. I don't have time for a lot. You know what? I do workouts and, you know, take care of the pets. I don't know if you can see the cat, 2 dogs, actually no, one passed. I have 2 dogs and 2 cats. So that takes up my time.
Okay, well, that's nice. Favorite place you visited in your travels?
Favorite place I visited, you know what? I really like the Mayan Riviera in Mexico. There are places, I was in Paris and I actually love Paris, but you know what? I was in London. I love London as well. Places in China, Beijing, I thought was very nice. I still have to go to Australia. So if anybody's on for Australia on this call, hopefully I'll get there. Not next year, but the year after, we'll see. Okay, I want to do a tour. I've got friends along the coast there, Sydney, Brisbane, and I was going to do a speaking tour down that area. That would be great.
Okay, well, that's awesome. Do you know something in Chinese, since you've been there for a while?
Ni hao, ni hao, ni zhao, shema mingsa. No, I have a little bit of Mandarin, not much. Okay, I know my numbers. Because when you catch the train, they tell you the train number. So you have to know the train numbers, like ER San Su Wo Leo.
And the taxi, right? Okay. Strangest thing that you've eaten?
Yes, that was definitely in China. So in China, some of the menus are in English, but most of them aren't. But what they do is they put pictures. So you see a picture and you can order off the menu by the picture. So I looked at this thing and it looked good, but I ordered it and it was a bowl of some glutinous something or other. And it was a little bit like the consistency of wet mushrooms, but some kind of meat. So I'm assuming it was kind of a tripe stomach thing. And I was very hungry, so I did eat some of it.
Oh, that sounds enjoyable.
But I loved, other than that, I loved all the food in China. It was great.
They do have good food. That's true. And would that be, so the next one would have been your favorite food, but is this Chinese food?
Yeah, it is, like fast food, Panda Express. There's some great Chinese food restaurants in Ottawa, you know, Szechuan and Cantonese, doesn't matter. Some of it, not a lot of it is like the food in China. Some of it is, but I like it all.
Okay. One thing you would never live without?
I can't live without?
Yes.
Well, actually, I have asthma. I have asthma. Now it's a low level asthma, but I have a puffer. So I literally may not be able to live without my puffer. So there.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. And I guess the last one, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Best piece of advice I've ever received is be yourself. And I'm going to recommend a book for you. It's called Tying Rocks to Clouds. And it's a fascinating book. It's about this person. The author goes around to different important individuals in the world and asks them, what's the meaning of life? So every chapter is a different person. And I read through that book. It's kind of a difficult book to get through. And it's a book that as you read each chapter, you say, oh, okay, I didn't get it. And then when you finish the book and sit down and think about it, it all comes together. And for me, it all came together. And it was about being yourself, and the answer to, you know, what is the meaning of life is to, you know, love one another and be kind to each other and to be yourself. So best book I ever read and best advice I ever got was from that book.
Awesome. Thank you. I personally did make a note. I also shared it with everybody in the chat if anybody is interested in looking at this book. Okay. Well, I guess we're done. We interrogated you enough. Thank you, though, Paul. This was really insightful. And thank you to everyone who was on the call as well. And let me share with you just a second to see how I can do this.
To share
professionally, to share the contact details so everybody can see how they can reach out to you. Okay. Hopefully this works well.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Yep, that's me. Everybody calls me Professor Paul because of my teaching. So these are the 3 books that are available. Listen, you can, that's my personal email address. I don't mind getting emails. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. And my organization, I do have a business that I work with, Stone Meadow Consulting. And we have a website. Feel free to look at that website as well. I think there's a link to the predictor tool on there. You can just check it out. There's probably a video about it in there if you're interested in that.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Paul. Let me stop sharing and also put this put the details in the chat box. And then let's see. Okay, there it is. Paul, it's been a delight. It's been a delight for everybody to have you, and we hope to have you again in one of our next episodes, and maybe we can talk about your next project.
Well, thank you, Ilinca. It was a lot of fun being here. I was just going through some of the comments that people were putting in the chat. It's great to get the feedback. Always good to get the feedback. It's a struggle to go through this and try and convince people that there's a new technology coming and we need to use it in project management. So it's good to see that people are attending. Thank you to all the attendees for being interested in the topic. That's really important. And thanks to Ilinca and to Joe, who puts this on and allows me to share my work with people.
Yeah, and we are. I guess we are the ones who are grateful, and we can also spread this to within the community and make more waves when it comes to this niche topic, but such needed. Yeah, we really enjoyed this, and we hope to hear more interesting, more waves when it comes to the AI space. So yeah, thank you, Paul, and thank you everybody else. Again, the recording will be made available, and yeah, we'll take it from there. Reach out to Paul if there's further questions. Thank you for joining this webinar, and we shall be seeing each other soon in our next webinar series. Next to come is in a month from now, but stay tuned on that. We will post more details on LinkedIn. Thank you, everybody. Bye, Paul.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.